Hi, I'm Jean Nolte, editor at Fons & Porter.
And I'm Colleen Tauke. I'm the sewing specialist for Fons & Porter. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to make the 4-in-a-row quilt.
For the pattern for this quilt, go to shopfonsandporter.com/quiltingquickly. Well, this is a pretty quick and easy quilt. It uses 2.5-inch strips and 10-inch squares.
That's right.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the 2.5-inch strips. You need 32 of them, and you separate them into groups of 4. So once you've done that, you're going to make strip sets with 4 strips in each. So one of the things we always remind people is when you're sewing your strip sets, it's important that you sometimes sew from this end to that end and then sometimes the other direction. If you alternate,
it keeps your strips from getting twisted. Eventually, the pull from the feed dogs on your sewing machine will just misalign them a little, and you will get kind of a twist. So always think top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom.
So once you'll make 8 of these strip sets, and then you're going to clean up the ends, and from each strip set you're going to cut 2 pieces. One that's 24.5 inches long, and one that's 16.5 inches long. Now you're going to keep them together because you're going to use them together later. So you keep them together as groups, but set them aside for now because we're ready to make 4 patches.
4 patches, okay.
So what we're going to do is from each of your 10-inch squares, we're going to cut 4 4.5-inch squares. And you can do that in maybe groups of 4 if you're really daring. Maybe you can cut through all 8 at once. But you want to keep them stacked the same way when you have the 4 piles
like this
of 4.5-inch squares as they were in the big one. And Colleen has a nifty method to make sure you don't get 2 4 patches that match.
I always have a problem trying to overthink where everything's going to get placed. So in order to do this really easily without having to think too hard, I just leave the first stack alone on the next stack, take the top fabric to the bottom here, take the top 2 fabrics to the bottom, kind of in a shuffling method. Then I take 3 to the bottom. Where they land is where they're going to stay.
Okay, so now we're going to take the top 1 from each stack.
It's time to create 4 patches.
And then you can have the rest of those.
Okay, we'll take these out of the way for now.
All right, so we're going to sew these together in pairs. So I'm going to hand them to you. You sew that edge right there.
This is the point where it's mass production. You can create lots of 4 patches very quickly. So
Especially if you do chain piecing.
Exactly. So 1/4-inch seam, run straight along.
Okay, here's your next one.
And instead of breaking thread, just put in the next pair.
Going. If you give those to me, I'll give them a quick press.
And I always like to leave them tagged together so that way I know they go together in a 4 patch.
Okay, so the other thing that I'm going to do is press
Set that seam.
1 this way. And then I'm going to flip the whole thing over.
Set the second seam.
All right. Nope. Set the second seam this way. And I'm going to press it this way. So this one,
And you're a lefty.
I'm lefty, I can use either hand. So there you go. Now, you should be able to just
right sides together.
and the seams opposed. How about that?
And because you went from one block to the other, they can't slip too far apart. The thread isn't very long there. So put it under the machine and 1/4-inch seam again. If you're new to sewing, remember 1/4-inch seam test. Go back and double check to make sure that from the needle to wherever you call the edge of your presser foot is actually a 1/4-inch seam.
Okay, so we're going to take that out.
And we should get a nice
Look at
joining
that.
at the very center. Very
Look at
good.
that.
We have a 4 patch.
Now, you want me to give that a press?
This 4 patch, then once she gets it pressed, if you look at the quilt behind us, those strip sets continue across the quilt but are pulled apart and we set a 4-patch inside.
All right, so what we have is a 4-patch here, one section of it there, and the other section of it here.
Now you can play with it a little bit. If those flowers in the big 4-patch beside the strip
I don't like
set,
that very well.
you can twist it a little at this
I
point.
think if I turned it this way,
it would be
one more time.
One more turn. There
one
we
more
go.
time. There, that's better. So then you're going to sew this together as a row. Now you're going to make 8 rows like this. And when we put it together, you'll notice in the quilt that they alternate the short side on the right sometimes and on the left sometimes.
So that the 4-patches bounce back and forth down the center of the quilt.
Right. Then once you've joined your rows, all you have left to do is add your borders.
Thanks for joining us today.
To see more of our videos, go to video.fonsandporter.com.